My name is Molly, and today we are here to discuss all the books that I read in the month of April and all the books that I plan to read in the month of May. I read a lot of books in the month of April. I'm not really sure why. The month felt really long to me, so I think that might have been why. So let's dive into the books I read in the month of April. The first book I read was The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. I finally read this book. This is actually the only book I read while on spring break. I should have read more, but I went to New York one day and then I went to Pennsylvania for 2 days, and it was just, for some reason I wasn't reading. I didn't have time, and then I just didn't feel like it. If you guys saw my last month's TBR, you know that I had to read this book for school, for our school book club thing that we have going on, and the meeting was right when we got back, so I had to read this before anything else. I ended up really enjoying this book. I loved it. I loved the voice of Death as the narrator, and I loved the story of Liesel and everyone around her, but I had to keep putting the book down at the end because I was sitting in the car reading it, and it was so sad, and I was just ready to start crying, and I couldn't do that because I was in the car full of people. I love books that are set in World War II. I think this was an interesting take on it because usually you read about Jews in concentration camps, and you don't really see Germans through everyday life. You saw that here, and you saw how it got worse, and you saw Jews involved in the story. I highly recommend this book. The next book I read because I read The Book Thief, and that is Night by Elie Wiesel. This is an autobiography. He was a Jew in Auschwitz. It's really short. It's only 117 pages, so I finished it within a few hours. He didn't talk too much about the emotional aspects. It was pretty much just the cold hard truth. He moved around a lot, and he wanted to keep the book short, so it was very just constant movement. It was we're going here, now I got on the train and I went here. This isn't a good book for an emotional feeling. You still get emotional because of the things that these people went through, but it's not he's talking about his emotions. It's more of just this is what happened to me, and that's it. But all in all, I think this book is a good book to read if you're interested in that World War II type setting. The next book I read this month was Letters to the Lost by Bridget Kemmerer. My friend told me about this book, and she was it's basically Tell Me Three Things, and I was Tell Me Three Things was one of my favorite books of last year. If this is anything like that, I need it right now. I was really excited to get it, and then I read it, and I was a little disappointed. Not completely. It was an okay book, but the main character did stuff that I was just oh. I really loved the main guy in this story, though. He was one of those tortured souls that we all love. This book is told in dual point of view. It actually starts out with them exchanging letters in a cemetery, which is interesting, and I don't think I've ever heard that before in my life. It wasn't a terrible book. It was okay. The next book was Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. It was amazing! I loved this book, guys. It was so good. And, it was one of those books that I finished, but I couldn't stop thinking about. Those books that just don't leave you, not for any specific reason. It's just that was such a good book. That's what I felt after I finished Simon. I do have to say, the ship that I had did not work out. This book, it's kind of like a Tell Me Three Things, Letters to the Lost type thing, where this guy is a closeted gay kid in high school, and he is communicating with this guy online. And they go to the same school, but they don't know each other. They don't know who the identity is. They have, screen names and stuff like that. And this whole book is just, trying to find out who this person might be. And, every time someone new was introduced, I was it has to be them. And then it got so complicated. I had so many theories. But my main theory was this one guy. And I had this whole scenario, this whole ending, and how it was going to play out. And that's not how it played out at all. It was totally different. And I suspected the person that ended up being him, but it wasn't who I wanted, and so I was very upset, and I was no, my ship, because that never happens. My ship always gets together, so I was a little surprised, but I was still happy with the ending. They were still adorable in the end, so I was you know what, I'm not going to be bitter about the fact that my ship didn't happen, but I still think it would have been a really good story if it played out the way I thought it would in my head. The next book that I read was P.S. I Like You by Casey West. I have never read a Casey West book before, but I had this Amazon gift card. I had a $25 gift card, and I didn't have $25 worth of books in my cart, and so I was texting my friend. I was like, what should I buy? And then we started talking about Casey West books, and she's like, you would love them, and I was like, alright, I'll buy them. So I bought two. And P.S. I Like You was the first one I read, and it was freaking adorable. Again, it was kind of like a Tell Me Three Things, Letters to the Lost, that type of situation. You can tell I had a type this month. This was just the cutest thing ever, and it was so full of angst, and I was like, there's 30 pages left, and they don't know who each other is. I'm like, oh my god. And I was freaking out, and this contemporary ended too soon. Like, as soon as the couple got together, the story ended, and I was like, no, you can't do that to me. I need something more, because I loved these two so much. It was adorable, and I loved it, and you should all go read this one, because it makes you feel so happy when you're reading it. I figured out who it was the second this person was introduced, but I still had a lot of fun reading, because then it was kind of funny to know who it was, because then I'd be like, oh, they're doing this, and like all that stuff. So it's fun. It's a really cute, fluffy read, and it goes by really quickly. You should all go read it, because it's adorable. The next book I read this month is not a conventional book by any means, and it is The Princess Saves Herself, and this one by Amanda Lovelace. I actually went to her signing event in Homedale, what was that, like 2 weeks ago? And so I got to meet her, and I got my book signed, and then as soon as I came home, I read it, because it's very short. It's told in poem style. See? So it goes by really, really quickly. I tabbed all my favorite poems. I like poetry, but I don't read much of it, so then when I finally got this book, I was like, yeah, let's read it, and I did end up enjoying it. I hope to read more books like this in the future. I know she's coming out with a new one, so I'm excited for when that actually comes out. The next book I read this month, I also ordered off of Amazon, and it is also a Casey West book, and that is By Your Side. I had to buy this book because the premise is that two kids get locked in a library over the weekend. I was like, that's it, I have to buy it, I have to get this one. And I read it because I loved P.S. I Like You so much, and I was not as big of a fan of this book as P.S. I Like You. I really liked the main guy, another tortured soul, and I did like what she brought to him and like what they came together as a couple. Like, I thought it was really cute. They complemented each other really nicely. The only thing about this book that was also kind of like was the fact that she had a crush on this guy in the beginning, and then they get locked in the library, so then she starts crushing on the guy that she got locked in the library with, but then this other guy is still in the picture. Like, they're still talking, he still wants to date her, and she's like, and so he's in the book a lot. I figured they'd be stuck in the library the entire book, but they weren't. It was only half the book, and then the second half is a lot about this other guy, and I was like, no, wait, where's my boy? Like, where'd he go? Another book that ended way too soon as a contemporary. The next book I read was on my TBR for last month, and that is Cruel Reality by C.J. Whitley. I was sent this book for review. I have a physical copy now, which is very exciting. And I finally finished this book. It was very interesting. It is a mixture of The Hunger Games, The Maze Runner, and The 100. And if that doesn't get you interested, I don't know what will, because those are all amazing things. Basically, this book is about a group of people that is kidnapped, and they're put on a ship. They end up going on this crazy journey. It was a pretty long book. There were some parts that were like a little slow for me and a little just kind of like I lost interest, and then it got better and it was like, whoa! The next book that I read this month was actually a reread, and that was City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. I have missed this book so much, and I was like, it's been too long since I reread it, and I was like, at this point I already read like 8 books for the month, and I was like, you know what? that's it, I'm rereading City of Bones. And I have a purpose for doing this. I went through and I tabbed all my favorite parts. You can see there's a lot of tabs. I color-coded them. I'm absolutely in love with this series again, and like, I'm rereading City of Ashes right now. I'm planning to do a book a month. Guys, if you haven't read this series yet, if you haven't read a Cassandra Clare book, like, you don't have to start with City of Bones, you can start with Clockwork Angel. I know some people like that series better. Personally, I like this series better, but that's just me. Please do yourself a favor and read her books because they will change your life and they're amazing. The final book that I read in the month of April was Service Goat by Piers Anthony. I was also sent this book for review. All in all, it was pretty quirky. Nothing I had ever read before. It was about this, like, alien goat that comes down and then befriends this girl and then uses mind control on people, and I really didn't understand that portion of it. I was like, well, are they controlling the mind, or did they just, like, open their mind to something? I don't know. And also, it was really, really short. It didn't really dive into anything specifically. It was just kind of like, this happened, this happened, this happened. It almost felt like an outline. Alright, so now I'm gonna dive into the books that I want to read in the month of May. So the first book, like I just mentioned before, is City of Ashes by Cassandra Clare. This is the second book in the Mortal Instruments series. Currently rereading, currently tabbing all my favorite parts. I forgot a lot of what happened in City of Ashes, and I'm only like 200 pages in, and I'm like, oh my god, that happened? I'm just like shocked. It's so much fun rereading these. The next book that I have on here is Safe Haven by Nicholas Sparks. I just watched this movie the other day for like the 10th time. It's one of my favorite movies. And then I remembered I had the book, and I was like, I really want to read the book now. So hopefully I'll get to it this month. I've tried to read it before, and then I just kind of stopped. So hopefully that won't happen this time around. The next book I have on here is The Romantics by Leah Cohen. As opposed to The Book Thief being told by death, The Romantics is being told by love, and that's nice and lighthearted and contemporary-ish. The next book on here is History Is All You Left Me by Adam Silvera. I actually met him again. I've met him before, but I met him again in April, and he signed my book, and he remembered me, which is awesome. Like, he remembered me and my friend, because we met him at the Giant Books of Wonder signing, and then he was like, do I know you guys from somewhere? And we were like, yeah! It was very exciting, so thank you, Adam. So this is his new book. I read More Happy Than Not last year, and I really enjoyed it. It was so good and unexpected that I loved it. And then this book is about a boy who loves his ex-boyfriend, and then the ex-boyfriend dies, and the only one that can understand his grief is the ex-boyfriend's current boyfriend. And so they kind of bond over that. It's been jumping out to me on the shelves lately, so I'm excited to get to it. The next two books I don't actually have in physical form just yet because they come out this month, but they have to be on my TBR because I have to read them. And the first one is A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. I'm so excited for this. The book actually came out today, but I'm going to her signing event in Pennsylvania on Friday, and so I'm just going to wait and get the book there. I really want to get it now and read it, but I just don't know how much time I'll have to read it, so I might as well just wait and buy it at the event. Ever since I read Akamath, I've been like, oh my god, like, I go back and forth between really wanting the book and really not wanting it, because then the story's over and I don't want it to be. And then the second book that I don't have in physical form is Lord of Shadows by Cassandra Clare. This book comes out this month, guys, and I'm so freaking excited. I ordered them the special UK edition, and of course I'm going to get the American edition as well, but I'm so excited to see what happens to all those characters because more Cassandra Clare books. So that is it for this month. I read a lot of books in April, and I'm hoping to read a lot of books in May. Let me know what you guys are planning to read if you've read any of these books. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I try to upload a video every week. If you like my videos, then subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!